I wasn't supposed to stay the night. That's what I keep thinking every time my mind drifts back to that morning, the one that started this whole mess. My car had given up just outside town, steam hissing like a sigh from somewhere deep inside the hood. My friend Aaron lived a few streets away, so I called him, half embarrassed, half desperate. He laughed, tossed me his keys, and said I could crash at his place until the shop opened Monday. What he didn't mention was that his sister lived there too. The house was quiet when I arrived, the kind of quiet that makes you walk softer, like you're trespassing on something personal. A faint smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen, mixed with lemon detergent and something softer underneath, maybe her perfume. Then she appeared, not in the way stories usually describe an entrance. No slow motion, no dramatic music. Just a woman walking out of the laundry room, startled to see a stranger in her space. She froze for a second, then straightened her posture in that effortless, self-assured way some people have when they're used to being observed. "Didn't know Aaron had company," she said, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her voice had that half-sleep texture, low, unguarded. She was wearing a long t-shirt, the kind that belonged to someone else once. Maybe an old band logo faded into the cotton. It wasn't what she wore that caught me off guard. It was how unprepared she looked, human, real. I stammered something about the car, about staying just one night. She nodded, still studying me with quiet curiosity. Not suspicion, exactly. More like she was trying to figure out where I fit in her day. "Coffee?" she asked. I said yes, even though I don't usually drink it. We sat across from each other at the small kitchen table. The sunlight through the blinds painted thin gold lines across her face. She didn't fill the silence. Neither did I. There was a kind of calm in the way she moved, pouring coffee, sliding the mug toward me, resting her hands around her own cup without drinking. "You look like someone who's used to fixing things," she said finally. "Mostly the kind that break down," I replied, nodding toward my car keys. She smiled, just barely. The conversation never found its rhythm, but it didn't need to. Every pause felt deliberate, like both of us were afraid to make it end. I noticed the faint silver streak near her temple when the light shifted. She noticed me noticing. Her lips parted, not to speak, but to breathe in slow. Aaron came home later, loud and careless, breaking whatever spell had settled in the kitchen. She disappeared down the hallway before he could see the look on my face. That quiet confusion of wanting to say something, but not knowing what. That night, I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the house breathe, floorboards creaking, pipes murmuring, footsteps too soft to tell which direction they were going. I told myself it was nothing, just a moment between strangers. But when I closed my eyes, I saw her again, standing there in that faded shirt, the morning light behind her, caught between surprise and curiosity. A moment that didn't belong to either of us, but one I still can't stop replaying. Aaron left early that morning. Something about a weekend job out of town. It was just me and her again, the quiet kind of morning that hums with unspoken things. I'd offered to help with a few repairs around the house to thank them for letting me stay. She hesitated, then agreed, pointing out the loose cabinet hinges and a leaking faucet. Her name was Lena, I finally learned, when she wrote it on a note for the hardware store. We didn't talk much while I worked. She stayed nearby, answering when I asked where things were kept. The air between us felt balanced on a thread. Her voice calm, but measured, mine careful not to sound too eager. When the wrench slipped and clattered against the sink, she flinched, then laughed, catching herself mid-sound, hand brushing her chest like she'd given away too much. "Sorry," she said, shaking her head. "I'm a little jumpy these days." "Long week?" I asked. She thought about it, then nodded. "Long few years." The words hung there. I didn't press. She didn't explain. She poured 2 glasses of water and handed me one. Her fingers grazed mine. A small, accidental thing, but it felt like a spark through fabric. She must have felt it too because she drew back quickly, folding her arms as if she needed somewhere to hide them. "You really didn't have to do all this," she said. "Aaron should have handled it. He didn't strike me as the fixing things type." That earned me a quiet smile. Tired, maybe grateful. Her laugh, when it came, was softer this time, unguarded. I found myself noticing too much. the fine lines near her eyes, the way her sleeves were rolled unevenly, one higher than the other. She looked like someone who'd been holding things together for too long. At one point, I needed to reach under the sink again. The floor was damp, the pipe cold against my wrist. She crouched beside me to hold the flashlight steady, her knee brushing mine. We both froze, not because of the contact, but because neither of us moved away. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Her breath was shallow, but steady. She didn't look at me, just kept her eyes fixed on the pipe, on the small job that didn't need two people. After a moment, she said quietly, "Aaron told me you're good with engines." "I try," I said. She nodded, still watching the metal gleam under the flashlight. "Maybe some people are just better at fixing what's broken." There was no question in her voice, but it felt like one anyway. When the pipe finally stopped leaking, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. Later, as I packed my tools, she thanked me again. That same careful tone, polite but distant. I started to say something, maybe goodbye, maybe something else, but she was already turning away. At the doorway, she paused, touched the frame lightly, and said without looking back, "You should stay another day, just in case the pipe drips again." I didn't answer right away. The sound of her footsteps faded down the hall, leaving me with that one small line. Practical on the surface, but something else entirely underneath. And that night, I realized I couldn't tell if I wanted the pipe to leak again, or if I just wanted an excuse to stay. The rain started just after sunset. One of those steady, quiet downpours that make the world sound smaller. The kind that fills every silence you're trying not to notice. Aaron had texted earlier that he'd be gone another night. I read the message twice, then left my phone face down on the counter. Lena was in the living room, a book open on her lap, a blanket around her shoulders. She looked up when I passed, like she'd been waiting for an excuse to be distracted. "You eaten?" she asked. "Not yet." "Then sit. There's enough pasta for two." We ate at opposite ends of the couch, the TV playing something we didn't watch. The glow from the screen flickered across her face, catching the thin gold chain at her neck. She pushed a piece of hair behind her ear, then laughed at nothing. "I cook too much," she said. "Old habit. When you live alone long enough, you still make enough for someone who isn't there." I didn't know what to say to that. I just nodded, chewing slowly, wishing I could find a line that didn't sound like pity. A low rumble of thunder rolled over the house. She turned her head slightly toward the window, but didn't get up. "You okay with storms?" she asked. "Yeah. You?" She smiled faintly. "Not really. I pretend I am." Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, an unknown name flashing before she flipped it over quickly. The motion was small but sharp, like reflex. "Everything all right?" I asked. "Fine." Then, after a moment, "It's my ex-husband. He usually remembers me when it rains." I wanted to ask what that meant, but she stood, collecting the plates. I followed her to the kitchen, more out of instinct than thought. We washed dishes side by side. She passed me a glass, our hands brushing again. This time, neither of us moved away. The power flickered once, dimmed the lights, then steadied. In that brief half-darkness, she turned toward me. Her face was closer than it should have been, her eyes searching mine like she was weighing something fragile. "I don't usually let people stay," she said quietly. "I can go if—" No, her voice broke, just a little. "I just forget how it feels to have someone around." The rain grew louder, drumming against the window pane. I could smell her shampoo, the faint citrus of the dish soap on her hands. Every sensible part of me said to step back, say goodnight, keep the air clear. But she didn't step back either. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world had shrunk to the sound of rain and our uneven breathing. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, quick, involuntary. Then the phone buzzed again, louder this time, vibrating against the counter like it had something to prove. She exhaled, closed her eyes, and whispered, "I should get that." When she left the room, I stayed where I was, palms still wet, heartbeat refusing to slow, realizing how dangerous a moment can feel when nothing actually happens, and how sometimes not crossing a line can feel closer than crossing it. The morning after the storm, the world looked rinsed clean, too bright, too honest. Lena was already awake when I came into the kitchen, her hair pulled back, coffee mug balanced loosely in her hand. She didn't look up when she spoke. "You're quiet this morning." I almost laughed. Me? I'd been quiet since the moment I met her. "Didn't sleep much," I said. "Me neither." There was no trace of last night in her voice. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just that practiced calm, the one she wore like armor. She handed me a cup of coffee without meeting my eyes. "I'm heading out later," she added. "Groceries, errands, things I've been putting off." I nodded, pretending to check my phone. "I'll tag along if you need a hand." She hesitated. "That's kind, but no. It's fine." We stood there, both knowing fine wasn't the truth. The air between us felt heavier than it had the night before, like the silence itself remembered what almost happened. The rhythm we'd built, polite, careful, almost comfortable, was gone. After a while, I said, "Lena." She looked up. The moment she met my eyes, I forgot what I'd meant to say. "You don't have to," she said softly. "Have to what?" "Pretend you don't feel it." Her words hit like a small, precise cut, not meant to wound, just to reveal. I set the cup down, unsure whether to laugh or deny it. "I don't even know what it is." She nodded once, as if she'd expected that. Then, with the faintest tremor in her voice, "Neither do I." For a long moment, neither of us moved. The fridge hummed. Somewhere outside, a bird landed on the railing and flew away again. "I haven't done anything wrong," she whispered. "But somehow it feels like I have." I wanted to say the same, that it was nothing, that it didn't matter, that it was just loneliness colliding with coincidence. But it would have sounded like a lie, and she would have known it. When she finally looked at me, there was no flirtation, no heat, just exhaustion. The kind that comes from wanting something you're not supposed to want. "I don't even know who I am around you," she said. Her honesty was sharp enough to leave me breathless. I took a step closer, then stopped. The space between us wasn't physical anymore. It was something else, something harder to cross. "I didn't come here for this," I said quietly. "I didn't mean for it to, neither did I." Her voice broke on the last word. She put her mug down too quickly, coffee spilling onto her hand. She didn't flinch, just stared at the dark stains spreading on her skin. Then she said it, the line that would replay in my head for weeks. "I think I forgot what it feels like to be seen, and I don't know if that's your fault or mine." The next day felt like walking through someone else's life. Hers, maybe. I tried to fix small things around the house again, but every sound, every echo reminded me of that last sentence. "I think I forgot what it feels like to be seen." She stayed in her room most of the day. The few times I caught a glimpse of her, crossing the hallway, standing by the window, she carried herself differently. Not cold, exactly, but distant in a way that felt deliberate. By evening, the house had gone quiet again. I was packing my tools, planning to leave before Erin got back, when I noticed her sitting on the porch, legs drawn up, a phone in her hand. She was listening to something, then stopping, rewinding, listening again. When she saw me, she pressed the phone screen dark. "Hey, hey." I hesitated at the doorway. The air smelled like rain again, faint, metallic, about to fall. "You heading out?" she asked. I was thinking about it. She nodded, then patted the space beside her. "Sit for a minute first?" I did. The wooden step creaked under my weight. After a long silence, she spoke without looking at me. "You remind me of someone." I waited. "My son," she said finally. "He'd be your age now." The words landed slowly, like pebbles dropped into deep water. I turned toward her, but she wasn't crying. Her eyes were steady, as if she'd rehearsed this truth 100 times in her head and never said it out loud. "He died when he was 20, she went on. "Car accident. Night after his birthday. He was just like you. The way you listen more than you talk. The way you look at people like they might vanish if you blink." The wind shifted, cool against my face. I didn't know where to look. At her, at the ground, at the horizon bleeding orange and gray. "I wasn't ready for someone like you to walk into this house," she said softly. "I thought I was fine. But when I saw you that morning, for a second, I forgot he was gone. I wanted to say something, anything, but every word felt wrong." She glanced at me then, almost smiling. "You didn't do anything wrong, you know. I just started remembering things I'd spent years trying to forget." She took out her phone again and unlocked it. On the screen, a voicemail was paused halfway through, a young man's voice, clear and bright, saying, "Hey Mom, I'll be home soon." The timestamp read 10 years ago. She pressed play, just long enough for me to hear that line again, before she stopped it. Her thumb hovered over the screen. "I still can't delete it," she whispered. "Every time I try, it feels like losing him again." She handed me the phone. For a moment, I didn't move, just stared at the still frame of a life I'd never known. When I finally looked back at her, her expression had changed. Lighter somehow, but tired. "Now you know why I couldn't let you stay," she said. "And why I couldn't ask you to leave." The first drops of rain hit the porch railing, one by one, soft as breathing. And in that silence, I realized the pull between us had never been about desire. It was about something older, deeper. Two people standing in the echo of someone they'd both never met. I left the next morning. Not because I wanted to, but because staying would have meant lying to both of us. She didn't stop me, just stood by the door, hands in the pockets of her cardigan, nodding like someone who's already learned how to let go. "Drive safe," she said. I did. Or at least I tried. The world outside her street looked sharper somehow. The sunlight too clean, the air too open. For hours I drove without turning on the radio, replaying the porch, her voice, the rain. That paused voicemail still echoed in my head, that boy's voice frozen in time. 2 weeks passed. I fixed engines, returned calls, lived my small, manageable life. But every time I wiped grease from my hands, I thought of her fingertips brushing mine over a sink full of water. Every small sound reminded me of that house. The hum of the fridge, the soft clatter of dishes, the quiet between two people trying not to look too long. Then one evening, I found myself parked on her street again. I told myself it was coincidence, but even I didn't believe it. Her lights were on, curtains half drawn, the same porch, the same steps, the same air that always felt like it knew something I didn't. When she opened the door, there was no surprise, just a small, slow exhale. "You came back," she said. "Yeah." Neither of us moved closer. "I wasn't sure I should," I said. "You shouldn't have to think so hard about kindness," she replied, then smiled faintly, as if the sentence had double meanings for both of us. Inside, everything was the same mug on the counter, the same faint smell of lemon soap. Except the silence was different this time. Softer, less afraid. We sat on the couch, a careful space between us. She spoke first. "I listened to that voicemail again," she said. "Then I deleted it." I looked at her. "Are you okay?" She nodded, eyes distant. "I think I'm starting to be." For a long while, we said nothing. The light from the window caught the edge of her profile, familiar now, almost unbearable in its gentleness. "I keep wondering," I said quietly, "if what we have is real, or if it's just what was left behind." She turned toward me, her gaze steady, unflinching. "Does it matter? We're still here." The simplest truth I'd ever heard. When she reached for my hand, it wasn't sudden or dramatic. Just a quiet movement, her fingers slipping into mine like they'd been waiting for that space. No promises, no apologies. Just warmth. We sat there until the street lights blinked on, until the day folded into night. At some point, her head rested against my shoulder, light, cautious. The sound of her breathing evened out, matching the rhythm of mine. Nothing needed to be said. We weren't fixing anything anymore. We were just holding what was left. And somehow, that felt enough. I still drive by the street sometimes, though I never stop. There's something about seeing her porch light on that makes the world feel a little steadier, like proof that some moments don't have to vanish completely. They just change shape. People talk about closure like it's an ending. It isn't. It's more like learning how to live with the echo of something that mattered. Lena and I still text, sometimes. A photo of her garden. A message about her new car. She bought it from the same shop where I work. We don't talk about that week. We don't have to. It's stitched into the spaces between the words we do send. She once wrote, "Funny how someone can come into your life and fix nothing, yet change everything." I read that line 3 times before replying with just one word. Yeah. I think about her often, but not in the way people assume. It's not longing anymore. It's gratitude for what she let me see, and for what she helped me unsee about myself. Before her, I thought love had to mean pursuit, that if you felt something strong enough, it demanded to be said, claimed, turned into something visible. But what she taught me, without meaning to, is that sometimes love is the opposite. It's the quiet acceptance of what can't be named, the stillness that exists between two people who simply understand each other for a moment in time. When I catch my reflection in the shop window now, I notice I look older, not by years, but by weight. The good kind. The kind that comes from having carried something fragile and setting it down gently. Every now and then, when the weather smells like rain, I'll catch myself hearing that old voicemail in my head. Hey Mom, I'll be home soon. It doesn't haunt me anymore. It reminds me that life keeps moving, even when we're not ready. That loss and love aren't opposites. They're neighbors who borrow from each other. And if I'm honest, I think that's what she and I were. Two neighbors in time, borrowing warmth we didn't own, and giving it back when the moment ended. I don't know if I'll see her again. Maybe that's the point. Some stories don't ask to be continued. They just ask to be remembered kindly. Still, every so often, I find myself hoping she's somewhere out there, sipping coffee in that same mug, smiling at something small, and maybe, just for a second, thinking of me too. Because in the end, it wasn't about the storm or the house, or even what almost happened. It was about what did. Two people finding the courage to be seen, even for a moment. And that, somehow, was enough. Sparkles, if this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?